What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Sharpen the Public. As always, I'm your host, Deej, back on virtual, on camera with Andy here. Andy, how's it going? Good to see you again. It feels like we've been together too much over these past couple of weeks.
Too much, not enough, but apparently too much. I think you're right because we both wound up getting sick after the last time we saw each other. So both on the mend, recording a little bit later than we normally do. A lot of my stuff has been delayed later than normal just because of how sick I was, but starting to feel better. And it's crazy, man. We've got a third of the NFL season behind us already, which is insane to think about, but it's been successful so far. I don't know about you, but I've got 4 weeks of profit behind me, and not just profit, but over 2 units of profit or more in the last 4 weeks. So I'm riding high, but this slate scares the shit out of me. I got to be honest with you. I feel like this is where I might regress a little bit. So I gave that caveat last week and ended up profitable for over 3.5 units, but tread with caution.
Oh my God. You can't just say every week that you're going to do poorly just so people will, the 1 week it does happen, you backed yourself up. We're like, hey,
back to back. It's just back to back here. There's 5 weeks in a row would be insane.
That's fine.
I don't really like this slate as much as last week.
I'm happy for you. That's awesome. I also had a good week, a nice 7-4, up about 2 units. So happy for that. I didn't really like the slate last week. I'm more excited for this one. I think there's more divisional matchups and games that people can be excited for. Like last week, it was like clutching for straws. Like we were really hopeful that the Commanders-Falcons game was good. I mean, that ended up being a good one. And I don't know. It didn't feel like we had many games to look forward to other than like the Niners and Browns. But here we've got, Browns Colts, you've got Bills Patriots, you've got even, crazy games like that, right?
Am I supposed to be excited for those?
Yes, you should. Yes, you should.
I think the reason I'm so hesitant and like feeling not so great about this slate is because of how tight some of these spreads are. I mean, we've got 9 of the 13 games have a spread that is 3 points or less, which is that's way more than normal. And a lot of low totals too. The first half of the slate, everything that's 1 o'clock, that's in the 1 o'clock Eastern time slate, has a total that's 41 or below, except for I'm missing which one it is here. Bad radio. Oh, except for the Lions and Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, the totals are crazy, and clearly that's indicative with what things have happened over the past couple of weeks. I mean, we haven't seen overs happen more than the unders week since week 2, where it went 13-3 towards the over, and now we had a 12-3 or 12-2-1 or something week last week towards the under. So it's kind of like odds makers are like, oh my God, we need to actually set these totals a lot lower than we were getting, because like last week Chiefs Broncos should not have been 48 points. Like it started above 50 and then it kept dropping. So there's a lot of crazy stuff happening with the numbers for sure. Totals for one, and then favorites too. It feels like they're covering at a phenomenal rate at this point. Like it's kind of wild to see where we are at this point in the NFL season.
Yeah, so I totally agree with what you're saying. In fact, like straight up favorites this season are 61-32 through 6. And as I said, we're a third of the way through the season. The other thing too is just with the unders being 36-1 this year. I mean, God,
we've been saying it, Andy. We've been saying it.
Yeah, maybe this isn't like, and I don't know if I guess this proves there's not really correlation, but I wouldn't expect this many favorites hitting with how many unders are hitting too. Like I typically attribute unders with underdogs, and that's why you'll see me tease a lot of underdog spreads up 6 points when the total is low, because it feels like you're getting that added cushion for what should be a low scoring game.
Right.
I'm just very surprised that favorites have dominated. I mean, they dominated last week alone, going 11-4 ATS. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane, and it's one of those things where we like when we talk about the public betting trends so much. Like, are we expecting this regression now that we've seen unders hit at an alarming rate and favorites hit at an alarming rate, or is it just like the way the NFL is at this point with obviously the unders and teams dropping 2 safeties deep a lot more of the time, or I don't know. Are these lines too inflated or not inflated enough? It's kind of begging these questions of what's happening in this new NFL over the past couple of years. But it's exciting to watch happen, and as long as we can continue to get in front of those trends and stay ahead of the market, then we're going to continue to win money like Andy has been over the past 4 weeks, right?
Hey, same to you, dude. Cheers.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I'm excited to keep it rolling here. So before we get into talking about all of the games in this exciting, now starting the second third of the NFL 2023 season, I will revamp everyone on the trends because I know that I was a little bit delayed in getting the trends out this week. So, and I know Andy probably didn't have a chance to listen to it either, right, Andy?
No, I unfortunately did not. I wish I did, but with the recording of our UFC pod and a lot of preparation going into that, on top of being sick, your listening to your pod fell a little bit lower on my priority list than it normally does. No
It's
offense.
totally okay. Totally okay. We're gonna run through everything again. The only thing I want to talk about before we talk about the overall trends through this season is the public finally had a negative week. I talked about it in the podcast that the public went 8-7, but I actually had a mistake. Public went 7-8 ATS this week. So the first, they went 7-9 in week 1. So, but since week 1, their first negative week. So I honestly expect that this, not necessarily they're going to have their next bloody Sunday this Sunday, but their start of like the turn of the cards here for the public. I don't think they're going to be holding up to what they've been doing throughout the season anymore. And last week was indicative of that. So good to see them finally be on the wrong side of 500. As a whole, that brings them to 51-39 and 51-39 and 3 ATS on the season. So still fairly positive and a record I would honestly take.
For sure. Hey, it's still a surprising record despite going below 500 for the first time in a minute.
Yep, 57% win percentage for the public there. Running through all of the trends, the money, that is anytime the money percentage is 50% or higher on a team, has gone 49, 41, and 3 ATS through the season, through week 7, well, now week 6. And then the sharp differential is 45 and 45 and 3. So it's just weird that the sharp differential is the worst performing out of those 3. You know, when you go into look at your public betting numbers and data, you wouldn't expect to be like, hey, I'm going to back the public today. And backing the public over the money in the sharp would be winning you some money this year as opposed to the others. And then moving to the totals, public 21-31 on the over, 25-13 on the under. Same old story there, exciting to see. And then I'll run through the general numbers real quick and let Andy react, and then we can get into the games. Money percentage on the under, 35-20. Sharp differential on the under, 45-23. Money percentage on the over, 16-21. And then sharp differential on the over, 12-11.
Unders are still crushing it, but like unders as a whole for the NFL are crushing it. It's just now our trends aren't saying as much about it because unders as a whole are crushing it. I think once we see some differentiation there, we'll be able to find some better trends besides like this is to be expected that the public money and under would all and the public money and sharp would all be successful on the under when unders as a whole are crushing it. So not a ton of takeaways there, not too many actual items besides that money percentage is doing pretty well, which is interesting compared to the sharp percentage ATS is not doing as hot.
Yeah, I don't know how. Last year we talked about it a lot, how like they always seemed like they correlated together. Like whenever we saw the money do well in a week, the sharp differential would also do well, and then vice versa. When one would do poor, the other would also do poor. But now it's kind of like that's where we're seeing those public favorites with the money backing, but not the sharp differential side covering. And that's why I've talked about it in a lot of my articles and in my recap episodes of the podcast, where I'm like, I think that there's going to be some regression for the sharp differential because it feels like these games where the Patriots had a massive sharp differential this past week, and they were the ones that were like, they should have covered, but they gave up a safety at the end. Devontae Parker dropped a pass that could have helped them cover that game pretty simply, and I would consider it a bad beat, and the sharp differential then ended up losing. So like the sharp differential is on the pad side of a lot of bad beats so far at the beginning of this year. They're continuing to pile on, and that's why we're seeing, you know, a 13-27 record from the Geico trend, but that's okay as long as we can bank on something coming back around. I mean, it's due to do that. So just interesting stuff to discuss anyway.
Yeah, speaking of bad beats, your Eagles couldn't do it for me in a teaser, as well as
I have them in a teaser too.
Your boy Baker Mayfield couldn't do it for me either, and in my Bucks teaser. So both my teasers lost last week, which is gut wrenching.
We both had the Bucks too, but the Bucks just look absolutely outclassed, and the Lions are kind of like that team now in the NFC that might be taking over some spots over the Eagles in some people's minds. Not necessarily the Niners with the injuries of McCaffrey and Debo, but we'll get into that once we get into the game. So we're going to skip over the Thursday night game because Andy and I usually blab about that one too much, and this is not getting out on Thursday. So we're going to start with Browns -3 at Andy's Colts. So we've got Browns -3 heading into Indianapolis. 72% of the bets on the Browns and 65% of the money, giving the Colts a 7% sharp differential. Total sitting at 40.5 with no AR. Andy, how do you feel about the lack of Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew taking over your season?
I'm sad. I don't buy the people like, oh, Gardner Minshew is one of the best backups. He's still a backup for a reason. Sure,
he's probably one of the better
in some
ones.
regards. Yeah. He's serviceable. He's serviceable in some regards. Like, he looked good in flashes for y'all in one of his games that he filled in, and then there's another game I remember last season. I was like, what the hell is he doing? So I think we're going to be getting a fair bit of what the hell is he doing, because I don't think that our passing options are nearly as good as what he had when he was backing up you guys last season.
Yeah.
I am interested to see how Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor do paired up together in the long term this season, because we've seen Zach Moss still do well with JT back the last 2 weeks, and JT not really do a ton. I don't know when JT is going to start getting involved. I don't know if something's going on or if they're just trying to bring him up to speed or what's up with that. As well as, like, this is going to be a telling game. If we can actually pull off a win in this game, I feel like, all right, we're actually going to like try to do some damage this season still without Richardson. But if we lose, I think this could be a telltale sign of how things are going to go. Because Deshaun Watson apparently is practicing, but the stuff with him has been so vague. For the last 2 weeks, it's been like, oh yeah, I know he didn't practice last week, but he'll play the next week. And then you get to Thursday, Friday, it's like, oh, he's not practicing. So at least he practiced today, apparently. I don't really know what to do with this one. I maybe would lean Browns despite the numbers and everyone being on them. There's just no way I'm taking the Colts, and I'm probably not going to touch it because I'm not going to bet against my Colts in a close one here. But I did call it last week. The Jags slaughtered them, fading my own guys. I think that was a pretty easy one. I was surprised that Colts was the hipster pick by everybody. They were like, "Oh yeah, this one's sneaky."
I didn't get that either. That either. I mean, after having not beaten Jacksonville in 8 years in Jacksonville, so
they got really cute with it. So I lean Browns, and I'm 97% of the bets, 98% of the money on the under is all you got to know about how people feel about it.
And are they wrong? Probably not.
It's already moved down points. That Browns defense is gonna make us look like shit.
Yeah, and that's why I lean Browns as well. I don't see how this Colts offense without Anthony Richardson, which was that dynamic player that was really like causing confusion for opposing defenses and getting you guys in the end zone and winning games, but obviously his physicality being so dynamic is one of the reasons that he's not playing anymore for this year. So I would definitely lean Browns as well. Jesus, just knocked over my mic. I lean Browns because their defense is just too good. No matter who's at quarterback for them, I think they can show that they can hang with anyone. I mean, they just beat the Niners, albeit because of some missed field goals and some wind, but they still beat the Niners in Cleveland. So this Browns team can beat anyone, and I understand that there's public backing and money backing here, and the sharp edge is still in the Colts, which I'm not sure I get, just probably being home dogs. I don't think I could be on any side that's not the Browns here with how good their defense has looked.
Yeah, it's such a small sharp and only 25,000 bets, so not necessarily a true sharp yet, in my opinion, just because we don't have enough bets to call it that. But yeah,
sure.
I'm aligned with you, dude. Let's roll with a lean on the Browns, but not necessarily locking it in yet.
Yep. Moving to the AFC East, we've got Bills -8.5 heading into Foxborough with 64% of the bets on the Bills and 64% of the money on the Patriots. Wow. The money really wants to back Mac Jones after a game that should have been closer in Las Vegas with a 28% sharp differential. And obviously those numbers have not fared well to this season, but I still think it's going to turn around. Like I really have that feeling. I don't think they continue to be so poor. And one of these spots is this AFC East divisional matchup where, you got the Bills at a large number, a lot of the public money screaming Patriots. How can you back the Bills here with the data looking like this? So, obviously, football aside.
I'm not going to put football aside here because I think that football tells the story of everything. This Patriots defense has been abysmal, and that's been a staple for this team for so long during the Belichick era. It's not necessarily all their fault because they have had a lot of injuries. I think that the Bills should pretty handily take advantage of this because the corner situation for the Pats is not great right now due to injury. So I expect Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis both to have really strong games. In fact, I put Josh Allen to go higher than 1.5 touchdowns into one of my underdog lineups earlier. I love that spot for him. I think that he's going to torch this team. And I've also got the Bills in a teaser in my early best bets teaser of the week. So I got them down to -2.5 because I'm just going to take the spread out of it. I think it would be shocking if this Bills team did not beat the Pats by a field goal. I think the division rivalry thing gets overplayed a bit when you have a really shitty side versus a side that's finding their own in the Bills. The Bills' losses, they had that one fluky loss against the Jets in week 1, and then they had another fluky loss against the Jags because they flew into London, I think, a day or two before the actual game, and that screwed them all up, in my opinion, where they just looked discombobulated, confused, where the Jags had been in London for 10, 11 days at that point, and had their bearings about them. I mean, we were on the right side in that one with the Jags against the Bills, or at least I was. I can't remember which way you went in that one. I'm not going to take him on the 8.5, but I love the 2.5 that I got him at, and I think Josh Allen once again has a great game, going higher than 1.5 touchdowns.
Yeah. It's tough for me to back the Bills here, but I totally get it. Like, they're just the far better team, and I'd probably stay away if I did anything that in this game that wasn't bet the Patriots. I mean, you can go back and look at the last few matchups between these teams. Patriots at Bills last year, 23-35 Bills. Bills won 24-10, 47-17, 33-21. Then you got to go back all the way to 2021 where the Patriots had a win against the Bills in Buffalo, 14-10 was the last time in December of 2021. So 2 seasons the Patriots wouldn't have covered this number. So it's tough. And you kind of want to be like, oh, it's Belichick. And that's probably where a lot of the money's coming in because there is value on a home dog, home divisional dog for sure. But with where these two teams stand currently, this is a tough matchup. This spread could be inflated by 10 points, be like 10 points by the time we see this on Sunday.
Yeah.
Even if the money continues to pour into the Patriots.
Yeah, it started at 7.5 and it's already up to 9 in a lot of spots. I found it at 7.5 last night while I was writing on Bovada, and I was about to grab it there, and then it moved to 8. So I was like, all right, I'll just go with what everyone else is going to have when the article releases at 8.5.
Fair enough. All right, now we go to Chicago in a weird matchup. We've got the Raiders heading into Chicago, -2.5 point favorites. 75% of the bets, 63% of the money. Even the Bears, a nice 12% sharp differential.
This is
what
the
to do with the
backup
Bears.
quarterback bowl. Yeah, the backup quarterback bowl. Jimmy G just got ruled out a few hours before we started recording. So
yeah,
Justin Fields is also out.
I would definitely back the Raiders backup, whether it's Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell. I think both of them are probably more in line with getting it done. Who's even the Chicago backup? I forgot his name.
He's a guy that
Minnesota.
played in for nobody's school. I forget what his name is. No, it's Bargent.
Oh yeah,
Bagent?
yeah, something like that. Bagent or something.
Yeah,
this is one of the games where it's like, I mean, just take the over 37.5, 98% of the money on the under. That's kind of wild. This total says it moved from 46. That was probably a mid-season line. And if you're betting on Raiders Bears week 7 mid off season, I don't know what to tell you. You've got an issue probably. But the total of 37.5 feels low. 61% of the bets on the over, 98% of the money on the under. The last couple of podcasts, Andy, have taken unders where the public was heavy on the under when we were recording, or public was heavy on the over when we were recording, and money was heavy on the under. But in the last 2 weeks, it's lost. So I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can do it again.
Yeah, I just don't want to get in on a total that's moved so much from where it opened due to the backup quarterback situation. It just feels a little tricky to me, regardless of what the data says here.
This is a game where I don't think the backup quarterbacks, I think Justin Fields is way better than their backup, and Garoppolo is way better. But the way these teams are playing, it doesn't feel like the backup quarterback situation is really going to make a difference for me, bet-wise, with them both not having one. Like this game is going to be played exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, if Fields was active, I would disagree with you because he's been pretty good against shitty defenses, and the Raiders don't have a great defense besides Max Crosby. Where I feel like he could have taken advantage of them via the air, like he had in his last 2 healthy games before going down. But yeah, I got nothing here. I'm not going to touch this game personally.
Yeah, Raiders are averaging 2.5 sacks a game, and then the how many of the Bears are allowing for the Bears? Bears are allowing 1.5, which why is that red? I don't know. That's weird. Anyway, I'll cut that out. It's just a weird matchup with the backups. I don't know. I want to say I want to lean Raiders, but I don't know how you can back either side. They both look shitty. Two not great coaches as well. So I'm just gonna stay away probably.
This total has moved 8 to 9 points depending on where you're buying it. So I'm out on the total as well. Just a big no touch for me, but I'll keep your Raiders lean in mind.
Yeah, we'll see if that Bears 12% sharp differential changes, because I didn't say it at the beginning, but I said it on the recap episode. That 10 to 14% sharp differential is 16-2 ATS. So keep a lookout for those games on Sunday. All right. You want to do it?
Sure. Next up, we've got the Commanders and Giants as they head into New Jersey, not New York, to play. I'm just going to axe that whole thing. Coming up next, we have the Commanders versus the Giants. Commanders are -2.5, and the total is set at 37.5. So another great totals. 37 total that we have on this slate to add to our portfolio of one more after this. Right now, it looks like the public and money slightly edge the Giants here with a 6% sharp. They've got about 59% of the money. And then the under is being slammed in this one, just like in all the other games. So 91% of the bets and 95% of the money. Only 17,000 bets in this game, though, so that'll get up a lot more. And more people will probably take the over here. I actually, now that we're talking about it,
I kind of like the over, too.
I kind of like the over.
I kind of like the over, too.
Both these defenses are a bit suspect. Giants do have Saquon back. Giants did look a little bit better against the Bills. Even though they only scored 9 points, they still did look like they were doing a bit better than we're used to. I mean, even last year when they were good, right? They were such a low-scoring team. Their offense doesn't really do a ton. But I just think this Commanders' defense is not that great, where the Giants might be able to take advantage of it a little bit. Put me down for a lean on the over. I can't really lock in too much this slate. I really don't like this slate.
No, I don't. I lean the over for sure, too. The issue for me is the great thing that the Commanders do have on defense. Their secondary is mad, but their defensive line is very good. And the Giants' offensive line is battered. It's beaten. It's bruised. It's bad. And whether it's Daniel Jones, I don't think he's out, right?
He is questionable with his head, but so is Saquon, for what it's worth.
Right. So whether Daniel Jones is back here, I'm not really too worried about it. I think Tyrod's been playing fine for the Giants. This being a divisional matchup where these teams have seen each other a lot, I think this can easily get to the 38 mark. Do I lean one side? I would probably lean Commanders, but sharp differential likes the home dog here, home divisional dog, off of a good performance against the Bills, and the Commanders are also coming off against a win against the Falcons, where it didn't look like they did much in the second half, but they did enough to prevent Desmond Ridder from coming back. So maybe the Commanders just kind of take advantage of these worst quarterbacks, the Desmond Ridders and Tyrod Taylor's or Daniel Jones's, but they did fine against the Eagles too. So it looks like the Commanders' peak is how they played against the Eagles. And have we really seen the Giants' peak yet? I'm not so sure. I think with the way the Giants' defense has played, with the way the Giants' offense has played, the Commanders could win this one 31-10. We hit our over, or they could have some sort of shootout where it's like 25-20. we still hit our over. So
yeah,
I kind of, we're not used to seeing being 9% of the bets on the over. That means you absolutely slam the over. It's usually the other way around, but I'm with you here. I kind of want the over and definitely lean Commanders.
Yeah, I think the issue for the Giants is that according to PFF through 6 games, they played 6 games or 5 games, can't remember, but they have the number 1 strength of schedule so far this season, which is tough. They've had by far the hardest schedule, and that's pretty clear with who they've played.
Right.
The Commanders are on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, and I kind of show their defense a little unfairly. I mean, they are a top 10 defense according to PFF. I just do think that because the Commanders have played that 28th ranked strength of schedule, their defense is going to look a little bit better because their quality of competition is nowhere near what the Giants is at. I would maybe look at some sack props for this Washington Commanders side. The offensive line for the Giants has been abysmal. There's not a single player rated above a 53 out of 100 on PFF on their offensive line. It is horrible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Commanders' defensive line is gonna eat them up, and the game is won in the trenches here. And you can, like I said, go back to the best game that the Commanders have played. That was against the Eagles, who had a great offensive line. Now you're playing the Giants, who have a terrible one. The Falcons don't have a bad offensive line, so I think they were able to get some sacks there, but not look amazing. They could go to town here, and that's probably why a lot of people love the under, and I don't hate it, but I do lean over because I think we could see some divisional craziness come out of this one where both teams somehow put up some points, but the Commanders come out on top ultimately.
Yeah, I might be diving into the prop markets here. I'll go ahead and go with you on leaning on the Commanders as well. Did you say you officially lean them? I'm gonna.
Yeah, I definitely lean them. Yeah. Especially, hopefully, if the public decides to not continue to do so well in there, they actually are hitting that downturn. The public's back in the Giants here, so we'll see what happens if this line gets to 3, which way sharp bettors take it. But if it gets to -2 for Commanders, -1.5, then it's definitely an auto play for me later in the week.
Yep, I'm with you.
Cool.
We go next to another game with a 37 total and a 2.5 spread, except it is flip-flopped here. So we've got the Buccaneers favored at home, playing host to the Falcons. And it seems like a lot of people agree with me on the Bucs because 73% of the bets and 83% of the money reside on the Bucs right now with 23,000 bets. A lot of people are slamming the under on this one too, where we've got 87% of the bets and 89% of the money. If you haven't read my article yet on happyhoursports.net, definitely do. I write an early best bets piece every week. And my first play in that article was the Bucs -2.5. I absolutely love the Bucs in this spot. And it's obviously the secret is out, right? I am no stranger to fading the Falcons. This will be my 5th time this season fading the Falcons, and we're in week 7. I've gone 3-2 in that stretch because I had 2 fades on them in one game where I took a Tyler Algier under in London. But anywho, the thing that I see here is that Tampa Bay's got a pretty good rush defense where they should be able to stuff Bijan Robinson. And then you look at the quality of competition the Falcons have had recently, where Desmond Ridder has looked good passing the ball, and it's up against the likes of the Texans and Commanders defenses. So again, I did shit on the Commanders defense a little unnecessary shitting on their defense, talking about this pass game. But if you do look at I think it's just interesting that he was able to look so good passing the ball, and it shows, right? Like their Commanders free safety, Butler is not amazing. Like the corners leave a bit to be desired in some instances. I feel like when they go up against a Buccaneers defense here, the Desmond Ridder is going to get a wake-up call. And yes, like Baker and company, I don't see them as a huge offensive threat in this game because the Falcons defense has surprised many. They've surprised me. I've given them their flowers because they deserve it. But then that makes me kind of lean under in this game as well. But I just feel like the defense and offense matchup for the Bucs defense versus the Falcons offense is going to be so one-sided that the Bucs would really have to fuck up and do a lot of turnovers and penalties in order to really lose this game. But it will be pretty low scoring, in my opinion.
Yeah. The issue for me here is another division game where the Bucs haven't really looked good against. They've looked fine against those worst teams, but when it comes to like the Lions and the Eagles, they really look terrible, and that's their floor to me. And overall, these offenses are pretty similar. They rank pretty closely in points. They rank pretty closely in plays, yards, and everything, and all these stats. And both of them are not great. I would have to back the Bucs here as well, just for a lean because of Baker over Desmond Ridder. That there's just a major gap between the two. And I've talked about it a lot on the podcast, like how Desmond Ridder is really just holding this Falcons team back. You can see like how when they play against the Commanders last week, how Kyle Pitts and Drake London are in these spots where they're open, and then either he's getting nervous back there, he's just missing passes, and he had one of his better games, and yet he's still, not making me think differently about him. So I think this Bucs defense, while be veterans and people that know it and players that know what they're doing, are going to be able to handle him, especially in this division matchup. I like the Bucs by at least a field goal here, and probably the under as well, because of just the lack of offensive prowess from both teams. It feels like every game the Bucs win or play, they're not scoring more than 20, depending whether they win or not. They're putting up 20, and then the defense is holding them or not.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to your point about their quality opponents, I mean, they put up 11 points in their loss against the Eagles. They put up 6 points against their most recent loss against the Lions. But they have wins against the Vikings, Bears, and Saints. I would categorize the Falcons more into that lower tier of opponents that they're about to be playing. And just to reiterate that the Falcons would be that lower tier. The Falcons have not won a game on the road this season. They're 0-3 on the road. Or I guess 0-2 and then 0-1 on a neutral site in London. Their 3 wins at home, though. They beat the Panthers 24-10 in week 1. Then they beat the Packers by 1 point in week 2, 25-24. And then they beat the Texans by 2 points, 21-19, in week 5. For me, it's just like they're not winning these games by very many points. Or to your point, like if you're looking to maybe tease this game, Falcons could be a great teaser leg, getting them up to 8.5, but that doesn't really align with my values of fading the shit out of this team because I really don't believe in them whatsoever. Give me the Bucs minus 2.5.
Yeah, just to close this out too, like the last time the Bucs did play one of those tougher teams in the division or in the conference or just in the NFL was the Eagles. They lost 25-11 the next week. They played the division rivals in New Orleans and destroyed the Saints 26-9. Now they come off a tough loss to the Lions. Now they play the Falcons at home. I think we're probably going to see something similar. So I wouldn't advise teasing the Falcons. I think Bucs minus 2.5 is definitely the play to make. This will probably be 3 by Sunday if the bets keep coming in as they are. So 2.5 is a good get.
Amen.
Moving to Baltimore, we've got Detroit plus 3 off their win that we just talked about against the Bucs. 54% of the bets on the Lions, 54% of the money on the Ravens, giving them an 8% sharp differential. The Ravens haven't looked amazing to me. They're by the skin of their teeth, winning games, and they're coming back from London. I think this is a really tough spot for them. I see why the public and money is split because the Lions are legit. You're getting, it seems like sometimes Goff outside isn't great, but he looked fine last week in the 4:00 slate against the Bucs. So I lean Lions here because their offense is one of those offenses that can take to town this good Ravens defense. And if Lamar and his wide receivers are not on it 100%, this Agent Hutchinson defensive front is going to get to the Lions or get to the quarterback.
Yep. My other leg in the teaser that I put out last night was Lions taking them from 3 to 9. So that's a Bills to 2.5 and Lions to 9 teaser that I did for 2 units in my article. I'd love the Lions in this spot. I'm confused why they are underdogs. I think the David Montgomery news definitely hurts, but Vegas already knew about it because, Vegas already knew about it because the line didn't move at all when the news was official that Montgomery is out. So Line already accounted for it. I don't really have a play on the total here. I love that we're getting 9 points on a 43 total, though. And I have a lot more thoughts on the Lions. I won't belabor it too much. You can definitely check it out in my article where I have a lot more stats and stuff that I use to justify getting this 9-point cushion in the teaser.
Yeah, this is, while I do like how the Ravens had played recently, I think this is a tough spot for them coming back from London against a really hot Lions team. So maybe it's one of the sharp plays to back the Ravens here, and we'll see where the public stands on the Lions. I feel like as with the week goes on, you're going to see that number creep for the public on the Lions here, creep from 54, 50, 57, 60. And if the line changes at all and you get Ravens down to a pick 'em, then I'm a little bit more curious. But the Lions +3 here is just, with the way that they've been playing, just feels like a no-brainer lean, at least. We'll see what happens on Sunday. I'm not ready to bet that. But
heading into the 4 o'clock slate, we have the Cardinals going up against the Seahawks. The Cardinals are +7.5 heading into Seattle. And the Seahawks have 61% of the bets with 57% of the money and 22,000 bets in as we sit here Thursday evening. The total is at 44.5, and the public is pretty nicely on the under here at 72%, but the money is kind of split where only 53% of the money is on that under. For me, this feels like an interesting spot because the Cardinals at +7.5 almost feels too good to be true. They've been keeping things close in the first half with teams and like on almost every game this season. So maybe we need to look at some first half spreads in this game too, instead of just looking at the regular spread here. If you have any free play laying around at your book, maybe throw a little free play on the Cardinals money line, because why not? I know that it's in Seattle, but Seattle has looked susceptible where they have not looked as dominant as they did in the first couple weeks as they compared to what they look like now. DJ, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on this game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love that you get the hook here with the Cardinals at 7.5. I think while they haven't looked, they haven't closed games out well, and you saw that obviously evidenced in the Giants game, and you saw last week against the Rams. There was a lot of opportunities that they had where they could have kept the game way closer, and they would turn it over in the red zone, or they would not make a play that they needed to make. And that's just the execution that's an issue with the Cardinals. Like, I still don't understand why they were one of the worst rated teams in the league to start the year. They're definitely that bottom tier without Kyler Murray, but they're not like the worst team. And I love that you're getting a divisional dog at 7.5 here. And the Seahawks, while they've performed well, they are coming off a tough loss in Cincinnati where they only got 13 points and they also could not convert. And now you're playing a divisional opponent that wants to grit out for a win. So I'm with you on the first half thing. I think, they could just be tanking and losing games in the second half just because they know that their season's pretty much done. But the way I'd see this game plainly is you saw the Cardinals go in as 7-point dogs last week to the Rams, where the Rams are, in my opinion, with Stafford and the way he's playing right now, even without their running backs, with Cooper and Puka back, they are a level above the Seahawks right now, in my opinion. I think if they were to play right now, the Rams would kind of clobber the Seahawks. And we saw that evidenced in week 1. So I think you're getting a lot of value here at the Cardinals with the same number, basically same scenario, divisional rivals. And the Cardinals are staying at the West Coast. The Seahawks have to come back, which some people don't put a lot of talk into. But 61% of the bets on the Seattle here just seems wrong, feels wrong. I like the Cardinals.
Yeah, so right now the first half spread is +4 at -105 on Bovada. I'm going to go ahead and lock that in as a play for me for one unit. The Cardinals have covered that number in every first half except for the first half game they had against the Niners, where they looked good the first quarter against the Niners and like some parts of the second quarter, but then the Niners started to pile it on against them. Especially with this game being at a total of 44. So the first half total set at 22. They're not expecting crazy amount of scoring in the first half. I love this +4 for them, where they get out early, they score a touchdown early like they have in a lot of their games in the first half so far this season. That gives you a 11-point buffer right there in the first half. So I'll go ahead and lock in the Cardinals at +4, -105 on Bovada for a unit.
This is a bit out of the blue for me, for Sharpen the Public historically. But when you see that 65% or 70% higher on the under, the public is 5-1. Yet there's a 19% sharp differential towards the over on this total. And I kind of want to back the over. Like, the Cardinals' offense has looked fine. Their defense has a lot of holes, and you saw that obviously with 26 points to the Rams. This is one of those division games that I think could go over with the Seahawks offense looking the way it is, and bound to bounce back from a bad offensive performance against the Bengals. This could be 31-27 type of game in the NFC West, and I lean the over here. And I don't know the last time we've recorded an episode where I've leaned more than one or two overs in Sharpen the Public history.
That's fine. Unders have been cooking, so it's time for the overs to start hitting. I think too, we didn't touch on this at the beginning, but totals have been so streaky where it's like either one way or the other. And I think we've had 4 under weeks now and then 2 over weeks. So it makes sense that the under's cooking because it's up 4-2 from a week total.
Last time there were 12 unders in a week. The next week it went 13 wins the over. So that was week 1 into week 2. So
nice.
Stats on stats. So let's go to another West Coast game. Steelers heading into LA to face the Rams as 3.5-point dogs, with the Rams getting 71% of the bets and 79% of the money. Are people just counting out the Steelers? Like, people just forgot about them? And kind of probably taking a lot for the Rams demolishing the Cardinals. I think people are overlooking the Steelers here. Yes, they have to travel, but they're coming off a bye. They're coming off a game where they didn't look great. So I don't know. The Rams, when they do lose, against the Eagles and other teams, they lose in the trenches. And the one good thing about the Steelers is their defensive line. I think this is one where TJ Watt takes over and steals a win in LA against a young Rams team.
I don't know why the total is so high, because I think the Steelers defense is what's going to carry them, and I still don't believe in the Steelers offense a ton, to be honest with you. Like, they're still figuring out what the hell they're doing at running back, because Najee Harris has not been it for them, and Jalen Warren, he's good, but is Jalen Warren actually a starting running back in this league, or is he just better than Najee Harris right now?
Which doesn't seem hard.
Yeah, Kenny Pickett is basically just needs all the help that he can get, and they do have
Matt Canada's not giving him anything.
Yeah, Matt Canada's not giving him anything. Deontay Johnson, I believe, is still injured too, right? So
I think he's back now.
Oh, is he back now? Okay, nice. So I don't see knowing that the Steelers defense is going to have to carry here. I don't see why we shouldn't be going under, especially when everyone and their mother's betting over. Maybe just wait and see if the total moves up more, because it's already moved up a point to a point and a half from where it was prior. I might sit and wait and just take the under on this game, even though we are predicting some overs this week.
Yeah, it's funny to me to hear you say that the 44 is a high total, which it's not.
For this week, it is. For this week, it is. But
at this point
in
in the
general,
NFL,
it's very average.
Yeah, it's definitely very average. I like Mike Tomlin off a bye. I'm sure, I don't know exactly what his stats are, but I'm sure they're amazing. Just the type of coach he is. I'm sure he's got a phenomenal record coming off a bye, really preparing for a Rams team that not necessarily blew over the Cardinals. I think the final score of that game was a bit inflated, but they were clearly the better team and should have covered no matter what. So I really feel like the Steelers can pull a win out here. Like, you see Steelers plus 3.5 at -120, so the books don't want to make it +3.
Mike Tomlin is 9-7 ATS off of a bye.
9-7. Okay, not crazy. I thought it'd be way better.
You know who's better than him off a bye? Andy Reid, 10-4.
Is that the only?
That's insane.
10-4. Yeah, it's pretty good. When does the Chiefs bye? Let's just lock that in right now.
Mike Vrabel's 5-0 off a bye.
Wow.
Jeff Fisher 4-0. Let's get him back out there.
Bring back St.
No,
Louis.
I mean, compared to some of the greats, he's not the best off a bye. Belichick 14-10 off a bye. Sean Payton 8-6. ATS off a bye.
What's wild to me is that you said Tomlin's 9-7 and Andy Reid's 10-4, which infers that Tomlin's been coaching longer than Andy Reid, or is that only with the Chiefs?
That sounds correct. No. He hasn't been with the Chiefs for 14 years. He's been with the Chiefs about as long as he's been with the Eagles now, right?
Yeah, and he came to the Chiefs in like 2013.
This is off of WalterFootball.com 10 months ago.
I mean, I could just be very wrong, but it does not seem that Andy Reid should have more
football
seasons than Mike Tomlin.
Andy Reid has coached in the NFL for 25 years.
That makes more sense.
I guess he has been in KC for 11.
So I don't know where that 10-4 number is coming from.
Let's see. When did they start tracking this? Oh, each coach with their current team.
There it is. That makes more sense.
But it doesn't include playoffs, so how does he have 14 when he's only coached the Chiefs for 11?
I don't know. She's probably coached him for longer. I don't know exactly when he left. He might have left in 2009.
No, he's been with the Chiefs for 11 seasons. This is his 11th season he's in right now. He's with the Eagles for 14.
So must have been, I don't know. Falk Walter football. They don't know what they're doing.
I don't mind this website. It's fine. As far as football sites go.
It's fine. All right, let's get off of this.
Yeah,
let's go to Packers Broncos. Packers -1 with 60% of the bets and 63% of the money on the Broncos in Denver. We're gonna have to back the Broncos, Andy.
I forgot that I was gonna take the Packers last time in my article, so I might just do it on the pod. I'm not taking the Broncos, dude. Are you kidding me?
Why is the sharp differential on the Broncos again? Oh my God.
I'm not doing it. There's no way.
This is why it's so poor
not
this
very
year.
good, but I don't think this Packers team is very good, but I also don't think that they're like embarrassingly bad. Isn't Green Bay coming off a bye?
This Denver team makes me hate football sometimes. The way they
Yeah, dude. Packers off a bye. Give me the Packers -1 right now.
But the Broncos are coming off a long rest. They played on Thursday against the divisional rival in the Chiefs. Now you got Packers in Denver. Jordan Love's first time in Mile High, probably. Like, I don't know. Is there value to be had? Yeah, I probably am. Is there value to be had on the Broncos here?
There's value to be had on the Packers, I can tell you that. One unit for me.
Defense is so bad. This is why the sharp differential is so bad this year, Andy, because they're back in the fucking Broncos.
Yeah. People still believe in Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson, they're saying he's
the issue isn't their offense. It's not the offense. The defense is the issue.
He's still trash.
What I think here is what we saw last year with the Broncos defense was almost like historically good with how well they were playing. Their offense just could not do anything. Now it's like completely flipped. Their offense is fine. Yes, they only scored 9 points against the Chiefs, but it was a weird game with a bunch of wind too. So it is what it is. I think people are seeing like, hey, the Broncos defense finally played well against a good offense when they held the Chiefs to 16 points. Just the offense couldn't get anything done, and that's why they ended up losing. So now people are going to say, hey, coming off this, an 11-day or 10-day break, this Broncos team's going to be able to pick up where they left off against the Chiefs and hold Jordan Love and this Packers offense to a few points, and Russ can get enough done. But I don't know if I'm ready to say it. I'll lean Broncos, but I hate it.
No, I'm not doing anything that I hate, and I'm definitely not betting on the Broncos. There's no analysis needed here. It's Packers -1. I know that sounds like such a square move, but Packers are coming off of 2 weeks of rest. They haven't looked amazing so far this season, for sure. But
what's LaFleur off a bye? Let's see what LaFleur off a bye is.
There he is. 3-2 ATS off a bye.
Nothing crazy.
I mean, that's in the green.
Okay, out of 5. Okay, very very effective numbers there.
Sorry, he's not as good as 4-0 Jeff Fisher.
Bring back St. Louis.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Fuck LA. They need to bring it back. I hope St. Louis wins their lawsuit against LA as well. What am I looking for here?
We're going off the rails today in this
that's
episode.
What I'm looking for. Well, we were doing really well, and now we're not. Okay, this is what I was looking for. I think Christian Watson can absolutely torch Damari Mathis on the Broncos. The cornerback matchup there is absolutely solid, as well as the Broncos' defensive line leaves a lot to be desired. Of course, the Packers' O-line is not amazing, but they're going to have a full 2 weeks to prep for what is a absolutely shitty defense. And I think that as Love continues to grow before our eyes, this is going to be an example of how he can grow against a defense that leaves a lot to be desired and a team that is so incompetent and is slowly but surely going to be fire selling their team in the Broncos. That's like a rumor that's been around for weeks now that they're going to sell on guys. And after how miserable they looked against the Chiefs, I don't know how they're going to look anything better against the Packers.
It's an ugly game. We'll see what the numbers look like on Sunday, but this is an ugly one. 21% sharp differential towards the over as well, which I don't hate with how the Broncos defense has looked. So I probably just would take that and let the game be. Maybe the sharps are onto something. There's a lot of sharp differentials to the overs in these games, and we don't see that often. It's usually the other way. So maybe some overs to regress this week. All right, let's finish this slate out. 4:00 game, last 4:00 game. Chargers at Chiefs plus 5.5. 78% of the bets and 82% of the money on the Chargers. Justin Herbert looked terrible in that Monday night game against the Cowboys. And I don't know if it's his finger issue that's like messing up some timing, some syncing or whatever, but he did not hit his open receivers. And if he did that, they easily could have beaten the Cowboys on Monday night. So now that they have to go into Kansas City with probably more Taylor Swift news, like I am baffled to see the public so heavy on the Chargers and money so heavy on the Chargers. I think with what we've seen over these last 2 games, the Broncos and the Chiefs, I think there's a lot to be. People are putting a lot in what happened on Thursday night between those 2 teams. Like usually, I don't know the last time we didn't see the public backing the Chiefs. This is crazy to me.
For sure. I'd be interested to see this develop more heading into Sunday, but as we sit here right now, I definitely will lean Chiefs if that's the way that you're leaning to. Because I agree, they're the much more complete team. The Chargers continue to week in and week out look incompetent and do things that are stupid. I think there was less stupidity that they showed in their last game they played than normal, so good for them on being less stupid than normal. This seems like a classic example of where something's going to go wrong, or like we saw at the end of the game, Justin Herbert unfortunately threw a pick, and in what was like a pretty good game against the Cowboys, I think that they were more ready for that Cowboys game because they were coming off of a bye. Now they have to go face the division rival, and the Chiefs have all the momentum on them. I lean Chiefs here as well.
Yeah, I always get nervous with larger than 3-point lines for Mahomes, but not having the public back them here, I get a little more excited. And at only beating the Broncos by 7 points, the Chiefs might want to prove something in this game, and they can absolutely do that against this hold Charger defense. There's a lot of issues there. So I have to lean Chiefs, probably the over as well, but the Chiefs defense has looked fine, so I'll hold off on that. Dolphins plus 2.5 Sunday night in Philadelphia. 59% of the bets on the Eagles, 76% on the money. I'm really curious to hear what you think here, Andy, but I actually love the Eagles in this spot off a loss to the Jets. I think this is a great bounce back spot for the Eagles, where obviously the public and money think so as well, but this is a get right game for the Eagles against a bad defense. A very good offense, yes, but a bad defense. And I think the Eagles offense is going to be able to handle it. I also like the under. I think 51 is too much.
Yeah, this is one of the better defenses that the Dolphins will face too. I didn't really have a play here, but I think I'll lean Eagles, and I also lean. I originally leaned the under when I looked at this last night. I don't necessarily lean it as much anymore because I think it's interesting that everyone's siding with the under. We've got 81% of the bets, 84% of the money on 28,000 bets, but the total's going up. The total's gone up 2.5 points since it opened at 49.5. I find that to be interesting. It's also the highest total of the week. And Sunday night games are 4-2 to the under this season, is what I wrote. I believe. I'll lean Eagles with you, but no play on the total right now, even though I really want to make a play on the total. I think that total is really juicy. Maybe
it is. It is big. I don't know if I can back the over. I mean, the over is possible with, what happened in the Bills game against the Dolphins. This is going to be the Dolphins' most similar game to the Bills earlier in the year, where the Bills won like 45 or 49-20 or something like that. So I
is
just
your
don't
defense
think
better than the Bills' defense? I don't know.
Our secondary, while hurt, is definitely not. Our defensive line, when healthy, 100% is. But
so that's my point here. Is like the Dolphins are still going to put up points. Now, are they going to be able to put up as many as you guys do against their shitty defense?
But our offense is not the Bills' prolificity or whatever the word is. Like, they're not that good. They're not that aggressive.
There's no way that's a word.
I don't know. If Jalen Hurts cannot throw the ball 70 yards downfield like Josh Allen can and hit Gabe Davis in stride. But the Eagles can eat you away with our run game and the way that we do play offense with our strong offensive line. It's the best in the league. And, the Dolphins have Christian Wilkins, and they have a decent defense in front, but I don't think the Dolphins have seen anything like this. And I think the Eagles, this is a game that, they've circled on the calendar. This is a must-win for them, where the Dolphins have kind of just been flying by the seat of their pants, doing whatever the hell they want against teams like the Panthers and the Giants, and just murdering these bad teams. So I think it's a bit of a reality check for the Dolphins, especially coming into Sunday night in Philadelphia. While everyone's high on the Phillies, juice, this is a tough spot for the Dolphins to come in and cover.
Yeah, I lean the Eagles, and I'm going to wait and see if the line moves more, so I might end up tweeting it out, but I also lean the over. I think your guys' defense is good as far as defenses go. Like, you guys have a good defense, but I don't think it's necessarily better than what they saw against the Bills, where I do think the Dolphins' offense is so good that they should be able to hang some points up on you guys. But ultimately that you guys will still outscore them. And this will be one of the first entertaining Sunday night games we've had all year, which is really exciting. This is one of the
better ones. This is definitely one of the better ones, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm a little nervous for it, but hopefully my bias doesn't get in the way too much. Finishing off with the Niners and Vikings on Monday night. Niners come in at 7-point favorites in Minnesota. 86% of the bets and 92% of the money on the Niners. The interesting thing for San Francisco here is how Purdy looked without McCaffrey and Debo. There's a lot of discourse right now in the NFL of like, do people need to be worried? Do they need to? I don't know. Is there reason to think that Brock Purdy's nothing without them? And I don't think so. I think the Browns defense is just that good, and they can kind of make anyone look bad. And especially at the end of the game where Brock Purdy was able to drive and get the Niners in red zone, we could be in a field goal position. We could be having a very different conversation where, if that guy hits the field goal. So I don't think it's all quits on Brock Purdy yet. And I would lay the 7 here with the Niners against whatever the hell is going on in Minnesota, because I thought the Vikings would come out and kind of demolish the Bears, and they needed a fumble-risky touchdown in order to win. So, and win and cover. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, for me, I think this is a dream teaser spot where you can get them down to half a point, which is awesome. If you don't like one of the teaser legs I gave out, then take one of the other ones, then tease this. I may even tease this with the Thursday night game tonight, and I'll tweet that out, obviously, so the listeners can see it before they hear the podcast. What am I going to do here, man? I think teaser was the only play for me. I don't know, though. I kind of agree with your spread, because I think the situation is this. The Vikings defense is not great, and they said it was going to be a lot better with what's his name? They said it was going to be a lot better bringing in Brian Flores, and it definitely has been improved from last season. But the Niners are not going to lose back-to-back games here. I think it would be stunning if they lost back-to-back to the lowly Vikings. And DJ win, or the Vikings going to start selling off some of their guys?
I don't know. They gotta send Kirk to Atlanta. They gotta do something.
Or send him to the Jets, dude. Send him to the Jets. I think that would be awesome.
The Jets are probably holding out hope that Aaron Rodgers can still come back by the end of the year.
He should not do that. He should not do that. That is a horrible decision if they did it, but it would be a very Jets decision if they did that, because Rodgers is going to say, yes, I can play, and the Jets will be like, sure, why not? And then he tears his other Achilles.
On turf again, so.
Yeah. But that's a different story. Love it as a teaser leg. I don't mind it straight up, -6.5. Don't take the Vikings here, is my only advice.
Yeah, no matter it being 6.5 at home, this is two very different quality teams right now. And even without, like, you'd think that the Vikings offense would be fine passing wise with Kirk, without Justin Jefferson, not necessarily fine, but like not necessarily skip a beat, because Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne there, TJ Hawkinson, but they really did not look great throwing the ball against a terrible Bears defense. Now they got to play the Niners defense, where, like, I don't think either of the receivers had over 50 yards for the Vikings. So this is a really tough spot to back the Vikings, and I'd be scared with the public doing so well and, you know, so much money in public on the Niners here, but this is at least the Monday night game, so we've got a little bit of time to think about this one.
Oh yeah. Again, just want to say it for the third or fourth time or fifth time. Not a huge fan of the slate. It's a tough one. I'm surprised that I was able to even muster up 2 official plays to give out on the podcast.
Yeah, I didn't even give one, so that's rare. But I mean, I agree. The slate, I think, is still better than last week's, but it's a tough one, and I'm excited to see how things changed as we get to Sunday. But it's gonna be weird.
You're back to season 1 form, where you gave no picks any week until the article. But this season you and I were doing pretty well giving out picks. I think it just says, again, when the spreads are this tight like this and the trends are saying what they are about the under, as well as how well favorites have been doing, it is difficult to gauge what's going to happen, even though we know all 13 of these are independent results. But when you can see where trends are going and how teams have fared, this is a rough one ahead. So tread carefully. I think it's going to be a lot more fun viewing than some of the weeks previous. I can't wait to watch it.
No, that's a good point, and something that's good to end on, because I saw this on Twitter where people were talking about, like, hey, this is, how can we say that totals or unders are 45 and whatever at a certain point throughout the season, because everything really is independent outcomes. But the way I see it is the odds makers and the bookmakers and the line setters, there's a level of consistency across the board, across every single game, where it's not the over that is happening. It's the combination of the teams that are playing, a number is getting set, and then it's going over that. So it's an independent outcome, but the numbers and everything change for every single game in a manner that is consistent across all of these sports books and across all of these minds that are putting these things together. So yes, they're independent outcomes, but they're independent outcomes in a way that they correlate, if that makes sense. That's how I see it. But just interesting stuff to think about as we move through the week and through the rest of the season. So
for sure.
But yeah, it was a good episode, Andy. I'm excited to see how this turns out on Sunday. As always, you can see my article out on Sunday. Per usual, you can check out Andy and his new podcast, Prelims and Pilsners, on
Pilsners and Prelims.
Excuse me, Pilsners and Prelims. I also came up with that name, so obviously I'm a little groggy.
I missaid it on our own podcast a couple of times. I flip-flop the words. That's probably going to happen the first few times we do it, but
it's okay.
Yeah, Rick is back, and he is doing full, like, all out on UFC content. So he really leads the way from an analysis side, and I provide some of my analysis and research too, as well as just kind of a alternate focus, looking at some of the camps, looking at some of the narratives, looking at a lot of the men's soap opera that is the UFC. While Rick really provides you that analysis, the fight styles, what these guys have done previously and all of that. And it meshes together into what is a pretty cool podcast format where we're going 5-minute rounds on every single fight. So this week we did 13 rounds, went a little bit over on the co-main and the main event, but as you would expect, it's 2 of the biggest headliners of the year with UFC 294. So go ahead and check it out. We are on YouTube at Happy Hour Sports, as well as on Spotify and wherever you find your podcasts. just like Sharpen the Public is. So be sure to subscribe to all of our platforms. Give us your solid reviews. Give us your love, your critique, your feedback, and give us some hate too. If you don't like it, tell us. We want to make ourselves better. So appreciate you guys, and super happy to be back with another podcast. That's our 4th Happy Hour podcast now, Deej.
Yeah, we got a lot of good stuff going, but I'm going to sign off here for Sharpen the Public as I want to go watch the Phillies. Go Phils in the playoffs. Andy, I'll talk to you later.
See you, Deej. The boys bet better with beer.